On this edition of Street Talk with Adi, we will be discussing automation. So last year, me and my dad went out shopping and we got an Alexa and a smart bulbs and a few other items. And I asked my dad why we got these items, and he said it was to automate our home. And I asked, what is that? And he says, making tasks like turning the lights off easier. So this caught my interest, and I had a few questions. How do these work? And how do they connect to each other? So recently I did some digging and I figured out that automation has been with us for about 80 plus years, in 1940 approximately, and it was used by Harrison Ford to develop his Ford Model T. I also figured out that there's two main types of like automation. You have a fixed automation and flexible automation. Fixed automation is when the automation can only run on a set of bound rules and like a traffic light and can only run on those rules. Whereas flexible automation can collect data and use that data to adapt to the environment. Flexible automation can also be characterized as smart or intelligent automation. So that caught my interest and I dug a little deeper and I figured out that automation is prevalent in mainly in two industries. You have the industrial automation used for cars and oil wells drilling, and home automation to make tasks like offing the light, opening the garage, and etc. to easier. And after my reading, I had two main questions. The first one is, how does one invest their time into the automation field? And the second one is, if everything gets automated, what is the purpose of us humans? So recently, my dad's friend reached out to me and said he could explain some. So please welcome Mr. Moorthy. Hello. How are you doing?
Hi, Adi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, Adi. Thank you for having me in your street talk.
No problem.
So, what are you going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about automation.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Okay, let's go ahead with your questions.
Yeah. So I've recently been reading about automation in general, and I feel like I have a good appreciation of home automation, but can you give me a brief rundown of industrial automation?
Sure. Why not? Industrial automation is a wide field, and it's often considered as a part of electrical engineering. Okay. So, industrial automation involves designing systems that have several sensors that connects to a central processing unit. It could be one or more like a computer sort of processing unit, and controls several outputs. Okay, so in your home automation example, you may have seen one sensor that does all the computation itself, controlling the HVAC unit, right? In case of industries, there may be thousands of sensors that controls lot of parameters such as temperature, pressure, level, vibration. So all these things are monitored, plugged into a computer that analyzes all the various parameters and controls the outputs. Okay, so these are all of these constitutes the industrial automation systems, and this is very much required, and you can see that in every industry today. Okay, and the complexity of these systems, it increases by the complexity of the processes. And even though they are very complex, it's very required, and it has key benefits for all these industries. The benefits are safety, right? Safety is first and foremost. We want everyone to be safe. All the human needs to be safe, so we have to protect them when they do work on all these complex chemical processes. And then we want to sustain the environment, right? We want to sustain the environment and hand it over to the next generation, right? We don't want to spoil the environment with industrial waste. So these industrial automation systems monitor the waste or the byproducts of these chemical processes and controls the waste so that the earth can still be the safe place to live. And thirdly, economic benefits, right? So we want to produce everything large, we want to produce everything quick, and we want to produce everything consistent. So the industrial automation systems maintain all these three economic requirements of processes as well.
Thank you for that good explanation. So if anyone would like to think of industrial automation as a career path, or they would like to see a future in industrial automation, how would they go upon that plan?
That's a very interesting question. If anyone who wants to adapt industrial automation as their career, right? So where should they start? So as I said, electrical, right? Electrical is the basis of industrial automation systems. So anything that you start to learn about industrial automation systems, I would suggest you to read open resources available from IEEE and ISA on electrical. So there may be some small notes on how electrical loops work, function, and how they contribute to learn about sensing, right? So that's a good start for beginners. And as you start learning these open resources about automation systems, you will notice there are multiple areas within industrial automation. There are something like networks, right? The sensors, the output elements, and the central processing units. They're all tied together by several industrial networks. So you will learn about that. And then there may be some computer programming involved that requires some programming skills to program the processing units that gets the data from inputs and provide outputs, right? So you will see a lot of these bits and pieces of skills that are required to design these automation systems. And definitely you will find something interesting that you really want to take a deep dive into. So I would start with ISA and IEEE open resources.
Thank you. So when you talk about industrial automation, and I'm sure it works in many industries, can you just give me the prevalent and front-running industries it is common in?
In today's world, every industry is very competitive and they want to produce quickly and fastly, right? So every industry has one or other form of industrial automation. Okay, so to provide a few names may not be the right way, so but I would just give a shot. The big industrial complex automation systems can be found in chemical, petrochemical, and energy industry. Okay, and these days you may also find automation improving in discrete industries such as automobile manufacturing and consumer electronics. Okay, for your reference, you can you can search into YouTube for the latest robotic automation improvement in Tesla production line. That seems to be a very awesome, cool video where they improved production line automation using robotics, which is also part of industrial automation.
Thank you. And so from my understanding, the devices in home automation, they connect to your smartphone, right? So how do they connect in industrial automation?
Okay, so let's go back and look at your home automation circuit, right? So you have a thermostat. Let's assume that's maybe living in your living room, that's mounted in your living room where you adjust the set points, right? You typically punch in like 75 or whatever the degrees that you need, the temperature you need, and then it calculates that. And if you notice in the back, it has a circuit board. Okay, the circuit board does all the computation. So basically it's a device with some computing ability, right? It does everything. And then you may see maybe 3 or 4 wires running back to your master system, which is in your attic, right? So basically they are converting your inputs into electrical signals and taking it to the processing unit. The processing unit decodes it and it understands what you are trying to say and adjusts itself automatically, right? Similarly, in a plant environment, there may be, say, a sensor that reads the temperature in a huge vessel, okay? And these sensors will have a couple of wires running out of them as outputs, and it runs into a processing unit, which is probably mostly nearby. And not only this particular sensor, there may be like thousands of sensors. For example, let's take a vessel. People typically monitor pressure, temperature, level of a vessel. I mean, like a tank, right? So these so there will be like three sensors for this vessel, and these three sensors will have like dedicated cables running into the processing unit, and the processing unit calculates the actual value in whatever the units. For example, if it is level, they will be monitoring the percentage of the level, how much the tank is full or not, right? So they will monitor that. So the processing unit will read that, converts electrical signal into numbers, and typically they have a graphical screen where the operator can see it, which is similar to what you have in your living room, right? And then the operator can change it, or he can leave it as it is. So if he changes it, then it goes back to the processing unit, right, as electrical signals, and it will be again decoded back to the original sensor, saying like, you are in a wrong set point. The operator wants to change it to the set point, right? So that's how the whole system works. Okay, and in your case, you have just one processing unit, which is a small PCB, but in industries, there may be there'll be a high powerful processing unit that can do thousands of computations within a second by reading all these inputs at the same time. Okay, and also you can write codes that kind of ties these inputs. For example, if the temperature is low in one vessel, but it is high on the other vessel, then you want to standardize it. You can just automate it, saying like, hey, this guy is cool and you are hot. I want you to come down, or I want to shoot up more. You can do all that automatically. You don't want people to stand before the board and keep pressing the inputs and outputs, right? That's what automation is all about, reducing the human intervention to the maximum possible level.
Thank you. And on a lighter note, I recently graduated from middle school. And
Mm-hmm.
by the time I graduate from college, do you think if the rate of automation continues to rise, do you think there'll be any jobs left for us, my generation?
Okay, so automation is really not replacing humans, or it's not going to take the jobs away. Okay, so automation is using the technology to improve human lifestyle. Okay, so today's technology is growing or developing faster than ever before. Okay, so it's like, for example, semiconductors were invented in 1960s, and the computers evolved around, say, 70s or 80s, right? And it took another 20 years before everyone had a computer. But today it's not like that. Apple phone came out overnight, and it's almost in everyone's hands today, right? So the technology is growing faster, and the boundaries between various engineering disciplines are slowly fading away. Technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, cybersecurity are drastically evolving, right? So there's a lot of opportunities for younger generation like you to adapt to these new technologies and improve them even further, right? So there are a lot of wonderful challenges waiting for you guys, and automation will not take away the opportunities. And what automation is trying to do is get rid of all the repetitive jobs and that are kind of repeated over a period of time, and the and time consuming activities, right? No one really wants to do the same thing every day, and no one wants to be doing something that takes hundreds of hours, right? So you want to do something cool, something nice. So that is what you will be guaranteed with. All the new technologies will provide you adequate challenge to keep focused on this high deliverable and high efficient things.
Thank you for that great discussion. I would like to thank you for giving me some of your busy time to come on the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Adi.
Hmm.
Yeah, talk to you later.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.